Here.
Harris.
Here.
Markham.
Here.
Eustace.
Here.
Pagella. Summers. Trainier. Van Dyne.
Here.
And Winfrey. You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Margaret, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All righty. We have approval of minutes. All in favor? There are none.
Don't worry about it.
That's right, okay. Well, never mind then. That's why it doesn't say the date. Okay, under old business, the agreement with Harbor is not quite ready, so we're going to be moving that to October. I don't believe we have,
October 3rd, yeah.
October 3rd. I don't believe we have any other old business, so we'll start with the new business. Awarding bid of, for office cleaning at various Will County office buildings. Joel, did you want to say something on that?
You want me there or here?
You're right there.
Yeah, this is our 3-year contract has run out for our custodial cleaning, and so we put it on the street and for another 1 year with 2-year options for most of the office buildings. We have 20 buildings on this list.
So it allows us to wrap everybody together. Okay. Any questions? Moses?
I'm re-looking, as I'm looking, maybe it's just easier to ask you, Joe, okay, so we went out for proposals,
Yes, sir.
and we had 6 of them?
We had 11 contractors show up for the pre-bid on August 7th, and then 5 of them provided a proposal and on August 21st.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Questions? Ken?
So we're not going with the low bidder, correctly?
We are not. There were some math errors with that. That once we discussed with them and that we identified those math errors, they were higher than the lowest bidder.
Something else, Ken? Is it? Okay. Motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have awarding bid for the tire collection event. We've had that several times before, I believe.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Renewing the contract for telecommunications time and material.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have authorizing the application for the Homes for a Changing Region Technical Assistance Grant and further authorizing the county executive to enter into grant agreement with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency on Planning and the Metro Planning Council and the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus.
Motion. A motion.
Okay,
Right here, there's-
second. Okay, and then questions.
We just get a brief synopsis from Ron on exactly what this is.
I thought I saw him, yeah, there he is in the back.
There he is.
Mhm.
Okay, can you hear me? We have been made aware, this is a technical assistance grant that's been around for several years, and normally counties do not compete for this opportunity. However, we were at a conference recently, and we discussed some of the things that are going on in our community with various initiatives, and CMAP invited us to put in an application. It's an open-ended application, and it's very similar to the LTA that has been used by this county in the past, where they're going to do an in-depth data analysis of conditions, our housing conditions across the county. So this is an opportunity that we thought we would avail ourselves of. I can give you more specifics. So we're going to have they're going to be in on November the 7th. CMAP is going to be making a presentation to the Modern Housing Solutions Committee to get a little bit more in-depth as to what this is going to look like. But we just want to have the opportunity for the executive to initiate this application once we do have a clear path as to what it's going to give us.
Yeah.
There is no deadline. That's another nice thing. This is an ongoing grant opportunity.
Okay, if
Question?
so Ron, so I guess what I'm interested in is exactly what is the scope of this study? I mean, is it a scope that's basically looking at homeless or affordable housing, or you don't have
I
enough
think it's
high-end
geared, I
housing
think it's
or whatever?
primarily geared for affordable housing, Jim, to find out
Okay.
what the, it's like a snapshot of the county.
And of course, affordable housing, I think sometimes it's confused with low-income housing, and they're two different buckets.
Right. I think it will be compatible. If you recall last week when the CED made a presentation to the executive committee talking about some of the challenges in a housing in general in the market, I think that is going to be one of the tools that we would use as a county to kind of take a deeper assessment of some of the shortages and some of the weaknesses that John Gruling's study had indicated.
Okay, and it's always just restricted within the boundaries of Will County, correct? The reason I say that is because you could have other types of housing that go along our county border, too. I mean, so you're not looking at a region here, you're only looking at Will County?
That's correct.
Okay.
I mean, there may be an impact on the region because other communities, unfortunately, no other county has availed themselves of this opportunity. So I don't think we're going to get a regional perspective.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay, authorizing Will County to provide matching funds for the homeless strategic plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions?
Yes.
Yes.
You recognizing me, Denise?
Yes.
Yeah, Ron, I'm glad you stayed. I actually talked to Ron before the meeting, maybe not in a real serious manner on this, but I did want to establish the fact that this is new for us. This is a matching funds that we have not done in the past, correct?
That's correct.
And the matching funds will come from CDBG funds or outside of CDBG funds?
Outside of CDBG.
And where is that coming from?
Well, I think we're going to work with the county executive's office to find out if there is available resources for that.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see that the funding recognized first before we approve something and we haven't identified the funding. Knowing that this is new and almost exclusively these efforts have been paid for, and Ron, if I'm, may not always be 100%, but if I'm wrong, you'll correct me. And that is that almost all matching funds for these types of things in the past, we have used CDBG, not made specifically for this, but generally our matching funds for housing initiatives has come from CDBG, correct?
In some cases, yes. Yes.
I'm
Not in all
I'm thinking
cases.
probably just about all cases, but I don't want to debate that with you. We'd have to go back and look, but that's just kind of a recollection thing. Sometimes a recollection isn't always accurate. I'm, it's not that I'm not supportive of this, but I do think we should have identified the funding first and then made sure everybody understood that it was not being funded out of CDBG. generally, these types of fundings, programs like this, we'll take the fundings out of cash reserves, because there is no identified, usually line item for this specific outside of the CDBG funds. So I just want to kind of put that out there. I don't know if this is time sensitive or not, Ron?
It is in a way. We'd like to get the study initiated by the end of the year, so.
Well, I know that, you would like, but I'm asking, it's not a matter of you're not going to get the grant if we don't take action today, correct?
Well, this is to finance a study which is mandated by HUD. There is no definitive
Well, if it's
timeframe.
mandated by, it's mandated? It's mandated?
Yes.
But it's mandated to use other funds outside of HUD funds?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not.
Study is mandated. Nick, did you have something to add to that?
I'm gonna probably just drop it now, but my point is we haven't identified the funds. I don't see this time. I'd like to see, even if you want to tell us right here now, where the money's gonna come from. Go ahead, Nick. I'm gonna shut up now.
I'm not prepared to tell you exactly where it's going to come from right this minute, but I guess I have a question first, Mr. Moustis, for you. Is your concern that it's using, say, corporate funds versus CDBG funds? Is that your larger concern?
No, I think, Nick, I'm just really looking to see where the funding's coming
Okay.
from, knowing it's not coming from the CDBG funds,
Okay.
which generally are housing initiatives. Much of it comes from those funds. So where's it coming from? Because we don't, I'm thinking we have not funded within the corporate budget
Sure.
for these types of activities. So, we would be setting, I don't want to say a precedent, but we would be using other corporate
Sure.
funds for this. That's all. It's
Okay.
not,
So here's what I would propose.
it sounds like a bigger deal than I'm really.
No, that's fair question. So what I would propose is if we could move this to the full board and immediately, I'm not as familiar with this particular item, so I don't want to speak too much about it, but we can investigate between now and next week and see if we can identify funds. I appreciate all that the board gives the executive's office, but we don't have a lot of discretionary money in our budget either, so, and we have some money for economic development things. I don't know that this is really that, but we can work to identify something, and if we can identify it, we can bring that to the board for next week. And if for some reason we can't, maybe then we hold off, or,
That's fine.
but let us look a little closer and see if there's some funds we can identify, and, so, if that's okay.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, it says in here a community-wide plan. What does that mean? Is it a county-wide plan or a community that consists of Joliet?
It's a countywide plan. The Housing and Urban Development has created an apparatus called the Continuum of Care. It's under the HEARTH Act, which was adopted in 2009. And the county has been participant, along with other communities, Bolingbrook and the city of Joliet, in the Continuum of Care. HUD is now suggesting and mandating that we have a countywide strategic plan dealing with homeless issues, not only in the municipalities that are part of the continuum, but countywide. So essentially what happens is that the county receives, I should say agencies in the county receive about $4.2 million annually as a result of this continuum. And HUD has been looking to us to create a strategic plan. So we are joining with the city of Joliet and other interested parties to participate in this countywide plan. City of Joliet has initiated, or I should say, pledged $20,000 to fund a portion of the plan, and they've asked us to match that so that we have some say in the construction of this plan, or the strategic plan.
Who's doing the plan?
Well, we don't know yet, but we're assembling we have to first of all, we have to get the funding in line.
I understand, but is Joliet leading this?
No.
Then
it's
why are
joint
they
effort.
asking us to contribute? I'm not getting that. And
Well,
the 4.2 million isn't Will County. 4.2 million is Will, Kendall, and Grundy counties.
Right, and
So
we're
who else
going-
is contributing?
Well, so far, we have an investment from Amita Healthcare System. We're going to be approaching Grundy County next, and we're going to be also approaching Silver Cross Hospital.
Well, it'd be nice to know who else is contributing before we're asking money.
Sure.
But again, to kind of go over what Jim was saying, so we can't use HUD money for this?
We don't have HUD money available at this time.
But we could use
We
it.
could use planning money if we, there is an opportunity to tap into planning money, but the idea here is to get buy-in from the county, the city, and various other entities, so that we feel that we have a contribution and a say in the development of the plan.
So how much does the plan cost?
We're estimating that it's going to be about $75,000. Looking at other plans from other communities and how much that costs, we're in the neighborhood of $70,000 to $75,000.
So,
So we're trying to do is assemble a financing package so that we have the ability to go out and do a request for proposals sometime towards the fall.
I get that, but I don't like our ask until we know what all the other money's coming in.
That's fair enough.
So we should see what everybody else is kicking in before, maybe we don't need 20, maybe we only need 10. But let's find out what everybody else is kicking in, especially the other counties, see what their thoughts are. And they're gonna have to vote on it too, but
Sure.
let's see where everybody's at instead of us, because Joliet put 20 in, we put 20 in.
Okay, that's fair enough.
40,000 would be more than 50% of the number you're thinking it's gonna be for the plan, right?
Right.
After her. Herb.
I think that the conversation we're having here, whenever the word homeless is involved, I think we're all on board with that. And then you couple it with two words called strategic plan. And it sounds like to me, Ron, we're trying to eradicate where homeless might be, whether Joliet or any part of 37 villages, touch Will County, 24 townships. We're concerned about it. And I think the mechanics of it, of where the money's going to come from, is very important. However, we should not never lose sight of that we're homeless and we're trying to eradicate it here in Will County. So I think the study is the first step forward. And after that comes the other mechanics, because you've already answered the question several times, Ron, and I think that it's very important that we do not lose sight of the fact that there is homeless somewhere, and we want to be ahead of that and make sure we eradicate that anywhere in Will County, whether it be Joliet or any other village. Thank you.
Yeah, so this came out of the Modern Housing Committee. Ron came and spoke with us, and Amanda and I have attended the continuum of care meetings. And so what we have learned, too, is that even though there's 3 counties, the majority of the homeless population that the continuum of care tracks is in Will County and in around the Joliet area, mostly because that's where the services are at. So I agree with her that this study is to look at a strategic plan of how do we then house these individuals so that they don't keep ending up in the system, but then also Will and Grundy are trying to do some of the same things Kendall and Grundy are doing the same things that Will is doing in order to lower that number of homelessness. So here is a chance for them to go after the technical assistant grant and for us to appropriate the dollars in this budget so that we don't have to wait another year. So I understand, Mike, that you're saying 20,000 is a lot, but the burden really is on our county, and so we need to take responsibility of that. If it ends up being less, that's great. We've appropriated the dollars, then we can downscale, but it's a lot harder than to try and upscale after we haven't appropriated the correct amount. So I would ask that you guys bring this to the full board next week and we can discuss it there, and Nick can maybe do some more research on the money, but that's where this came from. Thank you.
Gloria?
I just have a question. Also, getting this plan, do we need to have that in order to really secure the HUD funds? Are they looking us to have the plan to get the funds? Or?
That's a very good question. There are a number of things that are compliance related that make us eligible and continue making us a viable entity, and this is one of them. I mean, it's not a quid pro quo. They're giving us an opportunity to create the plan. They're not giving us an ultimatum that it has to be done at a certain time. But we feel it's appropriate right now because other communities who are in our same population niche have already created their plans. So we're trying to learn from what other communities have done in other regions of the country, and we don't want to be the last kid on the block. We want to be able to take advantage of the expertise that's out there. We've talked to some consulting firms in the Midwest and also in the West Coast, and they are interested in working with us because we have all the elements that are important for a region to have. We have a strong continuum, and we are part of a region that has strong continuums, the Midwest area. There are 420 continuums in the country, and we rank in the top third in terms of our funding. So we want to maintain that position. That's basically where we're at.
Jim?
Yeah, I just another quick question. Look, I think we're all, we are, all want to help folks that have a hard time, especially those who don't have a home or a roof over their head. I mean, who doesn't want to help them? But sometimes I don't know exactly what we're maybe referring to, or homeless. Do I think we have homeless in Will County? Absolutely. But how many homeless? Where are they at? I don't always think that we get a good base of what we're dealing with. We're going to come up with solutions when we might not know what the problem is yet. For example, I spent a lot more time in Joliet. I used to run into homeless people, frequently, and had no problem giving them a couple bucks. Many of them were people who were released from the prison. They had no place to go. So how much is that affecting our county as part of the homeless population? Because my guess is it probably still contributes. We should know that contributes, so we can tell the state, you're contributing, you need to help us with a solution. So I'd like to see maybe more data, not that it would hold this up, but I do think that we need to get a grip on, tell me exactly what are we dealing with here? And I'm not sure I've ever really heard what we're really dealing with outside of, there's homeless. Agreed. What's the extent of it? Where are they at? We should know that.
This is exactly the point that
Of this study?
This is why I'm suggesting we get buy-in, because the county board has never researched this question before.
No,
You don't understand.
right.
You have not been apprised of all the activity that goes on in the continuum of care. And this is exactly why I'm bringing this to your attention now as a request. Because what it does, it opens up the conversation, which has been going on for years. I mean, the county's been investing money to support the continuum of care since 1998.
That's right.
When it first came on board. Initially, HUD was, we're funding organizations like Catholic Charities, Daybreak, Trinity Services, Cornerstone Services. All those agencies are receiving this funding. None of the funding goes to the county. We're not a pass-through organization, but we provide the structure, along with the City of Joliet and the Village of Bolingbrook. We provide the structure that allows the network, which is the continuum, to function. We've never had that discussion at the county board level.
Right,
You simply check off the box saying that you're funding the continuum, and this is exactly why I think it's important for the county to take a position, or I should say, involve themselves in the strategic plan, because once you get involved with the strategic plan, you'll understand the full depth and complexity of the issue. So your questions are very valid, and that's exactly why I'm bringing this to the attention of the full county board,
You know, if I may,
to be a partner in this.
Okay,
in this
Tyler?
strategic
well, I just want to do one other quick follow-up, if I may.
Tyler?
And that is, you know, a lot of municipalities don't acknowledge they have any.
Exactly.
And I say, any problem with homeless. And I say that because they need to partner, they need to be truthful. I remember talking to some, this is years ago, Joliet officials. You know, about homeless. They said, we don't have homeless people here. If the municipalities who make up the majority of the population, if they're not going to be cooperative, and they're not going to acknowledge the fact that there's potentially a problem with homeless within their corporate limits, where are we going with this? I mean, I'm saying it's a bigger challenge of acknowledgement by a lot of people,
Correct.
not just the county. That's it. Thank you,
Okay.
Denise.
All right, well, since I am a member of the COC, the Continuum of Care, I guess I'll just say a couple of things and make a suggestion for Ron. I think it might be helpful if we like have the point in time count, and we can go over like that process of actually counting homeless people, and like how the HUD mandates that we do that and where we find them in the county, because we do that every year. And also with the HERF Act, it goes over McKinney-Vento, which is the homeless education assistance program that the Will County Regional Office of Education runs, which I used to work for. And I can tell you that there's only, when I was working there, like 5 or 6 school districts in Will County that had 1 or 0 McKinney-Vento eligible students. So every school district has people who are struggling with fixed, regular, and adequate housing. So that's a big aspect that I think that we're missing out on here was the McKinney-Vento. I mean, the Regional Office of Education, they can keep track of that. So they can give us those numbers for each school district. So we can see countywide how many students are having problems with it. So I think there's, I don't want to, I mean, I think it would be helpful information for the board moving forward to see that information and where exactly, because I think a lot of people would be surprised at how many people this affects.
Okay. Julie?
We can arrange that.
One of the things we have to...
Speak into your microphone, please.
Another important factor that I'd like to make sure that we're considering is mental illness. You can't look at homelessness without having that in the equation. War veterans, people who have experienced trauma. There are people in the population that simply cannot live in a structure for, you know, various types of trauma and injuries. Affordable housing won't solve those problems. So that's a problem I want to make sure we're considering along with this
That's precisely what the strategic plan will address, those complex issues that are involved with the homeless population.
Because we need additional resources on top of that
Right.
housing. And the goal with those individuals is to get them to the point where perhaps they can have a more productive life and get them off of the streets. The government came in and shut down Tent City at Hesed House. That was a wonderful program, and it helped the people that needed that type of help. And then one day they said, we can't do this anymore. So all of those people effectively went back out in the streets again. So if we can make sure we've got that whole approach there, because there's so many tentacles with this problem. Thank you.
Yeah. We have a number of questions on this issue, and I'm just going to restate this so that we're clear, and Ron, correct me if I'm wrong. What we're doing here is putting together matching funds, we haven't identified the source yet, to support a strategic plan that lets us look at overall homelessness for the county. We know that the city is already involved, AMITA is already involved, we're going to be approaching Silver Cross, and the combination of that money in conjunction with the continuum of care will put forward that strategic plan for us to go forward with this. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay. Is there new I see the hand. Is there new information?
Can I speak on it?
If it's new information, because...
Well, Jim brought up, he said that he wanted to know all of the numbers. We have the
Okay.
numbers, so I would ask that...
Tyler's already said that, so the numbers are available. Is that the question?
To
That's the
Julie's
question
point,
that's
then-
on the floor right now.
Seriously?
Is this. So if we're clear that that's what we're asking for, we have a motion and a second. Are we ready to vote? Go ahead. She had something else?
No, repeat that. It's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Barry,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Frizalone, Harris,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Mustis,
Yes, but I'm hoping the additional clarification.
Yes. Yes, that's agreed.
Trainier. Yes. Van Dyne.
Yes.
And Winfrey.
Yes.
Motion is
Okay.
approved.
And that's with the understanding that we will check the funding sources. Ron will do some further research, and Tyler will provide the information that he's mentioned on the numbers, so that everybody has the numbers, knows what the funding sources could be, and what our portion of this would be before next week. Right? Thank you.
Can I say one other thing on this? Just for clarification. This isn't really matching funds, it's asking for money, it's not matching anybody, it's just,
It's
we're out
matching the
there.
city's
So I think you should maybe restate just that it's additional funds to go to the consortium for, you know what I'm saying? Because who's
We
matching
can
it? We're
redo the
matching somebody
language
else.
for next week.
I'd say it doesn't quite, Ron, tell what it is.
You don't like the word matching?
Well, because it's not.
Well, okay, we're,
So when this appears next week, it will say contribution then, instead
Yeah,
of
that'd
matching
be fine.
funds.
That'd be
Since
great.
each group is putting in some money.
That'd be great.
All right?
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. Next, we have replacement hires for land use developmental analyst number 1. All in favor? Any opposed? Replacement hires for Sunny Hill.
Move.
Any opposed? Or all in favor, sorry? Any opposed? None. Okay. Proclamations, do we have anything? Mike, Mark?
We have recognizing Beecher Lady Cat softball team on their state championship. That will be a presentation. Recognizing Take Back the Night will be read at the desk. Recognizing Mike Hennessy on 30 years with United Way of Will County. That will be a presentation. Check presentation by Joliet Elks Lodge for the problem-solving course, and then recognizing NTSAD Day of Hope and Miracles for Molly and Madeline. And that will be information that's read at the desk. And you all received a flyer already about some of the activities that are starting this weekend.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to the appointments. We're going to remove the one from Oakwood Cemetery. The executive's office wants to do some...
Motion for that, to remove that then, please.
Okay. Wants to do some more work on that, so I need a motion for that.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Okay, then we'll approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Committee reports, land use and development.
Just really quick, at our last executive meeting, we had the discussion about the solid bio-waste. We kind of went over it in committee, and it's all controlled by the state, so I referred it to the Legislative and Policy Committee. So just so everybody's aware of
Okay,
what we did since our last meeting with that complaint.
thank you. Question?
Yes. Tyler, the last land use committee, there was a couple issues. You said, well, take them to the executive committee for appointment, for assignment. One was maybe re-looking at the sign ordinance and defining the difference between and separating digital signs from dynamic signs, because they are different. Was there one other one, Tyler?
It was that one, and then, it was, wholesale car
Oh, yeah.
dealers, is that the one you're talking about?
I thought, I thought the committee said, let's leave it as it is.
Yeah.
But I know the one on the signs, you said, well, bring it and see if we'll sign it and we'll discuss it. The other one that I would like to have a discussion on is, you know, this continuing, I think, confusion of what A2 zoning is. You know, A2 zoning is no longer a zoning classification in this county. E1 replaced A2, because basically A2 was rural residential. It is not an agricultural zoning, it's a residential zoning. And I do think there's this confusion sometimes of, then people want to come and take 2A2 and say, I want an A1. You wouldn't even entertain the fact, to say if somebody came along and said, I got 2 E1s, I want to turn it to A1, there would be a better understanding that it was so, you know, back in 1978, the county did go and do all kinds of rezoning classifications and rezone the entire county. You know, I'd like to maybe at least start a discussion, and it would be probably a little more of a lengthy discussion, of going through and changing all the A2 designations to E1 to truly reflect what the zoning is, which is estate or rural residential. So maybe that's also something that you can put on the list. I do think it's something that would be discussed over a period of time, because I'm thinking you could get a lot of opinions and viewpoints. So, but certainly if we can bring the sign thing and place that, Madam Chairman, on the Land Use Committee to review the sign ordinance in relation to dynamic signs, and perhaps look at separate dynamic signs from digital signs. There is a difference. So,
and I will say that I asked the committee members if they had any interest in it, and I think maybe 1 or 2 committee members, but the majority of the committee are pretty happy with the sign ordinance. So, I mean, we can put it for the next month and vote on it to sign it, but the committee seemed pretty happy with it. But if it's the will of the board, then we'll have the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else you?
No, and I'll look into the A2.
Okay, well, then I'm going to tell you, because here's what it is we're being asked, primarily by governmental entities, to give them variances to the sign ordinance, because they want to put up a digital sign, and we're treating it like a dynamic sign. Well, then we should stop doing that and just tell them no. Because you don't want to change it or review it. There is a difference. I'm just, you know, you can put whatever you want on the committee, but I'm just saying that, you know, you can't say, well, we should grant these variances, but we shouldn't look at the ordinance, because it's, you know, that's my opinion. I'm not going to argue it.
So you'll have that discussion at your committee?
I mean, we discussed the sign ordinance at our last committee, so since the committee was happy with it, I said if we want to go further with it, to take it to executive committee and have it assigned. So, well, I mean, we can.
Well, let me make this clear. You, Tyler, said take it to the executive committee and see if they'll assign it.
That's what I'm saying that we're going to do for next month.
So I'm asking, because that's what that was what you wanted me to do.
We're in agreement.
If the executive committee says they're not going to assign it based on you don't think there's an interest at the committee, fine. But understand, this is what you asked me to do.
I know, and we're in 100% agreement.
Okay.
This is what I said to do.
It will go to the executive committee.
So next month, we'll discuss it at the first executive meeting to get it assigned.
Okay. Finance?
The next meeting is going to be the 17th. We will be discussing expenses. Just a reminder, if you have anything on the budget, send those questions to Rashawn, Mariah, or even myself, so we can get those addressed ahead of time.
Okay. All righty.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Public Works?
In Public Works and Transportation, just to recap, we had a healthy discussion on the proposed gas tax, and it was an agreement that the county board members would consider having town hall meetings with their constituents to get some feedback, and we will further discuss the possible tax at a later date. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Public Health and Safety, or Judicial, sorry. Okay, Public Health and Safety?
Lori's not here.
Who's the vice? Isn't
I
that,
don't know who's the vice.
yeah.
We just have renewing contracts and awarding.
Okay.
for
Okay,
routine
so that's pretty
items.
straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay, Legislative and Policy.
We talked about the state agenda, got a couple new ideas for things that we might want to include in next year's state agenda. And let's see, this was only on Tuesday, you would think I could remember, but there's like 50 million things going on in my life, as I'm sure there are in yours. We talked about the breakdown of taxes at the gas pump. That was the other big issue. We want to see if we can get that done, where it says, the feds get this much tax, the state gets this much tax, your local municipality gets this much tax. A little sticker on the gas pump. Other states have that, so we talked about that. And we also had a really nice presentation from the county clerk about elections and the cost and the security and just, an update on what's going on, the new technology coming down the road. And although the clerk didn't say this, I suspect that some of our equipment is a little antiquated. And obviously, with the way computers change like every 5 minutes and software, we probably ought to be preparing for, another big change, an expensive big change down the road. So, nice conversation. If anybody has anything for the legislative agenda and you're not going to be able to make the meeting, be sure and pass it along. Thank you.
Thank you. Capital Improvements.
Anybody want any new buildings in their district, let me know. Pass it along. We have, once again, good updates of projects, good news what's going on projects, and I do have one resolution this month on the agenda, which is authorizing county executive to amend the contract with White and Company. And then the last two things, you all should be getting a calendar date from Beth real soon. On October the 1st, we are taking a tour of the EMA facility, construction, and animal control. On November the 5th, at the Capital Improvement Committee meeting, we're taking a tour to the Health Department and look at that construction. You'll be getting that very soon, right, Beth? Yes, sir. And so put that on your calendar. We hope you can join us, and that is all that I have.
Thank you. Okay, and you've just had the Executive Committee. Public comment. We don't have any public today. Public comment? Nobody over there?
Denise, I don't know how we want to go about this, but I think we should try and put something together to stop the sale of these jewel pieces right now until further notice. We don't know what's going on with it. I mean, in talking to Sue, we know why some of the stuff's happening, but this is happening so fast. Until they do more research on what's going on, I think it would behoove us to stop the sale of these things in the county, so we don't have any deaths here. Some of these people that have died smoked for a week or two with these jewels. I mean, I know some of them are a little longer, but it just doesn't make sense if we just sit here and not do anything when we're hearing about these deaths, and so far they've all been young people on top of it.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Jackie?
I had the staff share the cannabis newsletter that comes from Politico, and I got another issue again at 4:50 this morning. Americans spend $5.9 billion on THC and CBD vape products last year. There are 512 different cannabis-based vape product brands. Anyway, a lot of information. What they're basically saying, the gist of this newsletter this time, is because the feds have not decided whether or not to legalize marijuana, it kind of puts us in a weird situation because they can't regulate it if it's not legal. And yet it's legal in Illinois, or will be January 1st, and it's legal in, I think, 10 other states. So it really makes it difficult, and they kind of allude to the fact that maybe some of this Juul problem is with marijuana. I don't know that. I'm happy to put this one forward to the staff, but maybe the staff wants to subscribe and just send it out as a regular thing. I don't know if this is a daily deal they send out. I can't remember how often I've gotten. I think this is just my second one, so maybe it's weekly. But I don't know if we can make it illegal since it's legal in the state. I guess that's my concern, that we're going to try to overrule the state. I mean, I don't know, and maybe Dr. Burke over there can shed some more light, but.
I think actually Herb is next.
Herb, we're talking about two different things.
Yeah.
Mike is bringing up is a piece of equipment that you put oils in that causes, that is causing the deaths. The marijuana legalization and that is different.
Well, they're kind of tying it together in here,
Well,
but.
they can, but it's, right now, the vaping is really serious and it's killing people, and it's because kids are buying THC-filled syringe, the cartridges, that's it, with THC in it, and it has
That's what I just
vitamin
mentioned.
E. Vitamin
That's what I just
when you
mentioned. Did I not
ingest
say
it,
that?
causes a burn in your lungs. And we don't know enough about what else is in there to know what other kinds of complications could occur. So I totally agree with Mike that we need to, I mean, kids aren't supposed to be buying these anyway, but they are. So we need to get them out of the county to stop people from having access to it. And then the police are, that's their deal when it comes to the illegal THC vials that are out there.
But that's what I said to begin with. Americans spent $5.9 billion on THC and CBD vape products last year. So, I mean, I am talking about that. I may use the generic word marijuana because I don't really know what all these alphabet soup letters mean, because I'm just kind of old-fashioned that way. I know about weed and grass. But this kind of stuff I know is a little bit different. But they are talking about vape products. And like you said, there's stuff in them. We know there's stuff in them that's not regulated.
Some of the reports are showing that the e-cigarettes, regardless of what you have in there, it could be the actual electronic firing that's happening.
Yeah, we heard that, yeah.
Metal pieces that come into
Any
us.
number of things.
Basically,
going on.
nobody knows. I mean, we know something that causes, but we don't know what the other things are. That's why I'm saying, these aren't like an FDA product at this point. I don't know, and maybe the state's attorney could tell us what we can do, if we could stop it in the county for now, or well, we've got to do something instead of just sitting by here and watching young people die.
They're a fire hazard too, because they blow up in your pockets.
Will County is not home rule. You can only do what the legislature allows you to do. There's no legislation to allow you to ban any products as being unsafe. There's just nothing we can do statutorily.
Wow. Wow.
So, Phil,
It's legal until they make it illegal. It'd be, if you wanted to ban oatmeal because you thought there was a problem with oatmeal, you can't do it. Right. If it's legal, you just can't ban it.
Well, mine's not related. You all can go back to that. I just forgot to mention the 2 tours that I mentioned to the facility. If you go, they are going to serve me lunch, and I'll share with you if you decide to go. That's all. Now back to vape.
Okay, we have Jim, then Mimi, then Steve. And who else? Julie. Okay.
Is, and it does have excessive amounts of THC in it. I mean, so I do think there's law enforcement. One of my concerns is going forward on regulation is that the state does have, I think, regulations in that marijuana legislation that does regulate the THC. But I think the legalization of marijuana is just going to exacerbate this. It's just going to make it worse. You're not going to, so, you know, the vaping device is nothing but a delivery device, right? And now they're going to be delivering whatever kind of drugs they want to do through it, but marijuana will be legal. I think it's going to be a big challenge locally, and I think, you know, the public health effect is going to be considerable, but, you know, we'll find out about that later down the road. But I just wanted to say that, you know, it's pretty tough to regulate. There is no way we can regulate it, I don't think, at this point.
Right. Mimi?
I guess I'm a little curious because we did at our last board meeting try to, we talked about the fine for vaping being raised to 21, and I believe none of you supported that and wanted it to be lowered to 18. And I understood your rationale and reasoning for that, but that is something we could do to try to impact and to try to lower the usage. I mean, if you don't think that works, that's fine. That's your opinion, Jim. That's fine. But I just wanted to point out that, you know, we were trying to do something to protect public health, and we can't ban it as a county, and that's fine. So maybe we want to revisit the 21.
The age limit. Okay, Steve, and then Julie.
Steve and then Julie.
Yeah, when we're talking about laws and statutes and all that stuff, well, if you live in, not in Illinois, but if you live in another state that says you can't have illegals, you know, come in your state and be sanctuary, then these sanctuary cities are breaking state law. In Illinois, counties, there were 63 counties that said they were sanctuary counties for guns. Those counties are breaking state law. So in my opinion, when you say that you're going to do a law, it's kind of like the Wild West now. Anybody can make a law they want and then force it and let the state or the federal government come in and say you can't, and they'll take it to court or whatever, but that ain't happening. Every one of these government jurisdictions makes rules and laws, and a lot of times they're contrary to the existing laws from the state or the federal government. So to me, if our county wanted to make a law saying they want to get rid of that, and I'm not sure if I'm in favor or not, you know, I have to hear more about it, but if we want to do that, we can do it. We just do it, and then too bad for what the laws from the state say or the federal government. We have to take care of our people, so it's our responsibility, and no one's going to stop us.
Julie?
Thank you. For the age of 21, we were discussing tobacco, not vaping, and part of the...
We could put it together. Finish your comment.
And part of the conversation about that was the fact that if you can serve our country at 18, you should be able to smoke cigarettes. Is there a possibility that we can, I know our health department does a fantastic job with sending out safety bulletins and announcements. Can we perhaps increase that, make it a little more concentrated to specific segments of the population regarding this vaping problem, target it towards youth, target it towards parents. The health department does a great job with education, and perhaps we can increase that a little bit more, and that might help us at least do something to addressing the dangers out there with vaping. So perhaps Kathleen and Sue can talk about that.
Thank you.
Come on.
Sue, if you would take the podium. She's just too quiet. Yeah, her voice is too soft. Or yeah, that's fine.
We just actually finished a outreach program and curriculum and toolkit for educators on vaping. And we're going on WJOL next week, I believe, with that program head, and we're going to talk about the dangers of vaping and how it affects not only young kids who shouldn't be vaping in the first place, high schoolers who shouldn't be vaping in the first place, and of course, young people, even those that are trying to get off of cigarettes and going to vaping. You know, that's another issue as well. So we are on top of that. We're finishing the information probably today, tomorrow, and we'll get that out very soon. There'll be a press release. There'll be information on our social media. Steve will be tweeting about it. Like I said, we're going on WJOL. We've been very fortunate that Herald News and, Patch and Times Weekly, they've all been picking up our stories, so hopefully it'll get in the printed literature as well.
In addition to that, at the national level, there is a move to ban the flavored Juuls or e-cigs, and those are really, the only reason they got the flavors is to target the kids. That's really what that's about, even though they say they're not. So there is a move to do that as well. So hopefully that, along with the efforts locally, will help to change some things here.
Lengthy topic at our NIFIC meeting just last Friday. That's the Northern Illinois Public Health Consortium that I sit on the executive committee, and we talked about this for, an hour. DuPage County, Lake, Kendall, Kane, Winnebago, Skokie, Evanston, very well represented. And so what we've been doing all week is circulating and sharing a lot of materials and resources. So if you would like, I can certainly forward what I'm receiving to the county board staff, and then they could send it out to you. Some of it obviously is authored by DuPage County, some's authored by us, some is authored by others. But at least you'll see some of the materials and information resources that are going out on this topic. And I don't know if you saw in the paper just this last week, in the Herald News, there was a young woman from New Lenox who was on her way to college. Her mom was taking her to university for the year, and they took a side trip when she had some symptoms that just seemed too serious. The mom took a side trip and went to a local hospital, and the woman was hospitalized immediately with respiratory illness.
Right. Yeah, and if there are some flyers, I see you, Jackie. If there are some flyers or things that our members can share in their districts, that would be helpful too, Sue.
Sure.
And anything you can send out.
Absolutely.
And that was just my question to you, Sue. If some of the stuff, if you can send it JPEG so that we can post on social media to start educating people in our communities. I mean, where I live, there's probably a dozen different Facebook pages where this would be a good thing to post.
Okay.
Sue, would it be possible to reach out to our school districts and ask them to show these presentations in the homerooms? Because they have a captive audience right there. These kids usually just sit around and talk for 25, 30 minutes, but they've got the resources. That would be one way, and the kids all know it's vaping, but, I mean, that's another way to capture that audience, and I can't see why they couldn't do that.
I don't know, we can certainly provide the resources to the school. I don't know what the rules are for homeroom, if they have to allow them time to do homework, or I don't know, but we can certainly provide it to the schools and make the recommendation that they use it.
Sue, if I can, it seems vaping's been around for a long time, actually, right? I mean, it's not something that's new. Certainly, I'm thinking it's been promoted as a nicotine substitute to tobacco. But it seems just very recently, we're having these cases where people over a very short period of time of vaping are having these life-threatening illnesses. I mean, is there any indication that there's something that has changed? Is there more pirated product on the market? I mean, did you just have any of those kind of discussions of why we might see this sudden spike? Has there been some kind of change?
on.
I haven't heard anything about pirated product, but certainly it might be out there. There always seems to be. I know that over the last several years, the tobacco industry has lost market share in young people for smoking. And there were less young people starting to smoke than, let's say, when I was growing up. So I don't know, I guess they designed a way to change that.
Yeah, I don't know, would you agree, though, that there seems to be this more spikes that's
Yeah, I think
over a short
vaping.
period of time?
I think vaping has been around, even in its rudimentary form for now about 8 years, 10 years.
Yes,
And I don't know if the technology's changed. I didn't even know anything about it until, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. It wasn't that popular. So I don't have that much technical knowledge of the devices.
Well, the reason I'm asking that is because the terminology they use on these news reports, or the reaction from like a Juul, is saying the products that are causing a problem are non-store-bought products. So I guess that means somebody's mixing it up in their basement, or what?
Well, it's THC, so kids are buying it from dealers, and just like any other drug, you don't know what you're buying, you don't know the content. And so we were interviewing a young man who was telling us about what's going on in schools, and kids are sharing their Juuls. And I think this is what happened to this young woman, is, they're sitting around the bathroom, they're all
passing it around.
Yeah, do you remember the cigarettes we used to pass around?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing,
Yeah.
but they don't know which one has THC in it and not. And so they really don't know what they're ingesting. And that's what's happening. And unfortunately, the combination for some kids is really toxic. And I think it's more frequent because the schools are unable to control it. Like, they can't manage those things in school where they're trying, but you can't see it. I mean, you can't find it, you can't see it. So it's just becoming much more prevalent. Kids are addicted to the Juuls now. And when you talk about kids and social anxiety, they use it as a method of calming themselves down, just like we used with cigarettes, right? So, it was bound that it was going to get out of control.
Okay, Amanda?
It seems like we want to have a really good discussion on this, and I think we should. Can I request to formally put this in Public Health and Safety Committee? And we may consider also, if we want to talk about any further ordinances, also in judicial, but maybe start the conversation in Public Health and Safety. I think it would be a more appropriate place.
Thank you. Okay. So that will appear for next month on the Public Health and Safety meeting. Okay, that was the end of our committees. We were done with public comment. We didn't have any chairman's report. We're going to set the agenda.
I'll make a motion to set the agenda as amended.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We don't need an executive session, right?
No.
Okay, so motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will start the committee of the whole in 5?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.